I recently read an article stating that with increases in wages after this wave of inflation, the millennial generation settled a new record for home ownership, with over 50% of the millennials owning their own house. On top of this, I'm also looking for an investment property myself in that jungle that is Milan. So let's discuss how we can smartly save money for the down payment of a house and how the process works. Hi guys, my name is Giuseppe and I'm a finance graduate, former financial analyst and money nerd. And today we're going to discuss that bad beast that is home ownership and how to make this a reality after my first video on the topic. If you haven't watched it, take a look at it. After running the numbers, I still think that owning a home is not the best investment possible, although owning a home for rent might be a sound strategy to build your wealth. Again, this choice is very personal and depends on a ton of factors, and it might be easily more emotional than financial. On the other hand, if you look to invest, you might do so with Lightyear, which is an amazing and simple platform that allows you to buy ETF with zero trading execution fees. And you can use the code PEPPE to get $10 of free shares when you open an account. How cool is that? But please remember that your capital is at risk. And now, without further ado, let's get started. To start with, let's discuss with the budget. Let's start by assuming that you're gonna get a mortgage for 80% of the value of the house, and you're gonna do a down payment for 20% of the value of the house. That is probably the most common formula everywhere. Firstly, you're gonna have to determine the budget you're gonna aim for. These need to be dictated by the market, the area, and the kind of house you're looking for. Based on the budget, you're gonna have to compute the down payment you're gonna save for. So let's say that we're gonna buy a house that is gonna be worth 300,000 euros. In this case, our down payment, as we said, is 20%, so 60,000 euros. Now, depending on your money availability, we can have two different routes. If you have the money ready, you do not need to save, and it's gonna be fine. If instead you need to save that money, you might need to shoot for a higher saving goal, because the price of houses tend to increase over time. So if it is gonna take you 5 years to save that amount of money, you might consider a target of saving that is 5% more, assuming an increase of the price of the house of 1% each year. As we said, 20% of down payment is the most common formula, but there are many forms of mortgage that can go as low as 3 or 10% of the value of the house. The best idea is always to get smart about it and talk with as many lenders as possible in your country and in your area. But yeah, please speak with as many lenders as possible so you can understand the market in which you are in better. You definitely don't want to end up in the situation in which you made a binding offer, but you're not 100% sure that you can afford that house. On top of the down payment, you have to consider all the transaction costs that can be related to notary expenses, agency expenses, taxes, and whatever. To be chilled about this, you might want to budget for 10% more of the price of the house, but this is highly variable depending on your jurisdiction. And even here, there might be some exemption if you are a first-time buyer and if you're young. Based on all these facts, you can pull out a specific number you wanna aim for. So if the price of the house is 300,000 euros and we have a 20% down payment, so 60,000 euros, and we also have to shoot for 10% of transaction cost, we're looking to save 90,000 euros. Admittedly, not many people have that amount of money in their 20s, but not even in their 30s. Actually, the majority of people that I see buying a house so early, I usually getting some form of help from their parents. If you're not that lucky, well, we need a plan for that. Let's discuss about some math. Now that you have this number, it's time to break down this number into monthly saving targets over a period of time. Let's say that you are capable of saving 500 euros per month or 6,000 euros per year. Well, in this case, you might expect to save that amount of money in 15 years. On top of that, by the time you save that amount of money, the price of the houses might have increased. And if we assume an increase of the price of houses of 1% compounded each year, we're gonna reach an increase in the price of 16%. And 90,000 euros is gonna be more like 104,000 euros, adding another 2 years of saving on top of that. So you look to buy in 17 years. That is admittedly a very grim outlook. And this is probably also the reason why there is a wide range of age for the first-time buyers in Europe. That varies a lot country by country. Also, this situation is highly personal. For many, the idea of saving 500 euros per month might be far from reality. For others, your income might go up over time, especially if you develop in your career, and the majority of friction to saving is gonna be in the earliest years of the process. That said, let's imagine that your income is not gonna go up over time, and you do not have help from anyone. How are you supposed to save 90k? How to save? Well, as always, your ability to save is given by the difference between your income and your expenses. And you can increase that only by making more or spending less. Literally, there is no magic here. But I don't want you to become the penny pinchers that saves on coffees and whatever. Usually, to start saving significant amount of money, the best way is to act on the biggest expenses of your budget. And these are housing, food, and transportation. Like, do you really need to rent a flat for yourself, or can you share it with some flatmates? Or maybe you might even consider going back to your parents' house. Can you find a cheaper place to buy groceries and maybe save another 50 to 100 euros per month? Do you really need to have a car, or can you make it work with public transports or car sharing? All these should be checked first and managed accordingly to your saving goal. Consider that if you're able to save something like 1000 euros per month, you're gonna halve the time it takes to save for the down payment from 50 years to 7.5 years. That is much more manageable. Also, to increase your income, you might consider doing a secondary job or freelancing on the side, whatever can fit well your schedule. And on top of saving, it might be smart to put that money at work as well, in some form of financial instrument, such as bonds or ETFs, to protect them from inflation and hopefully get a faster growth. Coming back to your base case, let's say that we're able to save 500 euros per month or 6,000 euros per year. By investing those money in something very simple like S&P 500 ETF with the expectation of 10% return per year, that is the historical performance, so it's not guaranteed. Pay attention to this. You're basically going to get 600 euros per year of bonus. So this means a bonus month of saving each year, helping you reaching that goal faster. With a compounded interest of 10% per year, you are gonna reach 100,000 euros in 11 years instead of 17 by investing 500 euros per month. And if you can invest 1,000 euros per month, you're gonna cross 90,000 euros in 6 years. That is a significantly more manageable time frame. Obviously, this is a simplification since you're gonna pay capital gain taxes on those money based on your jurisdiction, and you also have to account for inflation. But it's definitely gonna be a faster process. And also consider that you might incur in some market crashes over time. So you have to manage this choice based on your risk profile. And this is not financial advice. Like, really, it's not. How to manage a mortgage? Consider that the monthly payment of your mortgage must be between 40 and 30% of your monthly net income at maximum. And that has to consider all the other obligations that you might have, such as student loans, credit card debt, car loan, and whatever. So before starting this whole process, it might be smart to get to the point in which you are debt-free first, so you have more income disposable for this commitment, and make sure to build your credit score over time if you are in a jurisdictions that use this system, such as UK or US. In this way, you're gonna access the best conditions possible for the mortgage. If you're not in that kind of jurisdiction, just stay away from any kind of financial issue, such as late payments in whatever you're gonna do. Please. Coming back to our example, let's say that we buy a 300,000 euros house with a 60,000 euros down payment, so 20%. And we get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 3% of interest rate. Each monthly payment is composed of a quota of interest and a quota of principal. On the first payments, you're probably gonna pay more interest than principal, because the interest are computed on the whole amount borrowed. But as you pay off the principal, this ratio is gonna invert, and you're gonna pay less interest and more principal. You can play with these numbers by decreasing the length of the mortgage in terms of years. And by doing so, you're gonna pay less interest overall, and you're gonna pay a higher amount of principal at the beginning of the mortgage. But this is gonna also mean having a higher monthly payment overall, and you need to fit that into your monthly income. The majority of banks allow a faster principal repayment, meaning that if you happen to have a bonus at work or an inheritance or win the lottery, you can put that money against your principal and pay it back faster. Make sure though that you're using those money to pay back the principal and not the interest. And in this way, you're gonna have a lower monthly payment from the month after, because the interests are going to be computed on a lower principal. Also, evaluate if paying off your mortgage is the best use of your capital, because if you have a very low interest rate on your mortgage, it might be smarter to invest those money into the stock market or in your skills. Again, no financial advice. Evaluate this based on your personal situation. A house as a net worth builder. Finally, let's review how we can use real estate to build wealth, or at least how we can do so basically in any jurisdiction, because the rules change from country to country. So talking about our initial example, let's discuss again the case of a 300,000 euros house with 60k of down payment or equity into the house and 240k of mortgage at a 3% fixed rate over 30 years. Note that, to start with, real estate is one of the few purchases that you're gonna make in your life using leverage, if not the only one. Now consider that at time zero we have equity into the house that is gonna be 60,000 euros, or just the down payment. But when we go to review the amortization schedule of the mortgage, we can see that as we pay the principal back, we're gonna increase our equity into the house. On the first month, we're gonna pay 411 euros and 85 cents. And if we define our net worth as our asset minus our liabilities, we are going to increase our net worth by 411 euros and 85 cents, while paying 600 euros of interest in the 1,011 and 85 cent overall monthly payment. After 1 year, the principal paid is 424 euros and 38 cents, while the interest decreased at 587 euros. So with real estate too, you can see that the majority of the risk is in the earliest years of the mortgage, in which you pay most of the interest and you have the least amount of equity into the house. After 1 year, 234,564 euros are left to pay in the principal, meaning that our equity into the house is now the principal, so 60,000 euros plus 5,436 euros. Now, let's remember one thing. Although we have a mortgage for 80% of the value of the house, we actually own 100% of it. Meaning that if the house appreciates by 1%, we're gonna catch 100% of that amount as an increase in the amount of equity into the house. So after 1 year of paying off the mortgage and a 1% increase in the value of the house, our actual net worth is gonna be 5,436 euros in repaid principal and 3,000 euros in increase in value of the house, or a total of 8,436 euros. And ideally, if over time the house keeps appreciating, these numbers are gonna go up year by year and faster. Now, we're not gonna compute a natural return over investment, because that's gonna be the argument for another video. But understand that when it comes to wealth building, real estates can help you in all these ways. And this is house appreciation and principal repayment. And even the difference between the rent paid, if you're renting the house, and the monthly expense of the mortgage. You also have to consider that depending on your jurisdiction, you might face taxes, renovations, and any kind of expense related to owning a house. And these need to be computed in your overall return over investments. Also, house appreciation can be taxed as capital gain in many legislations. So before doing anything, get smart about it. So guys, here you have it, how to buy a house in a nutshell, with a little bit of economics around it. At least considering the most general parts of this process that should be relevant for anyone. So if you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe. And you might also be interested in understanding why buying a house might not be a great idea. And you can find it here. Bye!